Welcome to this morning. It's not morning.
Maybe it feels like morning. Maybe it feels like we just got up. But
maybe it feels like morning. No. Welcome to
evening.
Table Talk number 22.
That's what I see on there. That's amazing.
Yeah, number 22. We've been going through a great series together with you the past several weeks, and we've dealt with introduction to what we're doing.
Yes.
And what are we talking about?
We are talking about overcoming obstacles, anything that life throws at you.
Five keys of overcoming.
Just tools to help us.
And that was an important thing.
Yeah.
We mentioned the fact that it's important to understand that they are tools. Tools are not the be-all or end-all, but the thing with tools is you can use them to ongoing situations in your life. And that's one thing that we wanted to highlight here was we're not giving you the answers for everything because every situation is different. But if we can provide you with tools that helps you, whatever situation you're in, to apply it to those areas and then jump into it. Yeah. And we've talked about several tools that we talked about. The first thing we talked about was our introduction part and just where we're going with this and how our struggles and when difficulties come in our life, it is very normal. But what isn't normal is sometimes how we react to them. And so it's important for us to go through some of this stuff as a challenge, as a systematic look.
Yeah, because when you're overcoming stuff, it is a challenge. Some of these keys are a challenge, honey, to actually apply. Take that tool out and put some action to it.
Absolutely.
To actually walk
That's
it out.
what helps us pull through and work through those things as we apply these tools, action points that we can actually apply to our life because we're created to overcome.
Yes, we are.
That's one of the things that we wanted. We wanted to establish as we went through this series that no matter what life throws at you, God has called us to be overcomers, and He's equipped us to. And so part of this series is understanding that reality and learning to put in the right things when we're in those moments, because I don't know about you, but when we're in those moments, we don't think of these things. And so if we're equipped, we can be reminded and we can apply those things to our situation in life.
So it's like we've been in a construction zone. So tonight we're back in the construction zone because we're building something. We want these tools to help you build something solid that you can stand on for when you're working through life, breaking cycles in your life. We've worked through a lot of these too.
And that we've brought a lot of personalness to this series because we feel it's important because we've applied it, worked it through in our own life. And so we dealt with the introduction. The foundation of this whole thing was important what we build on. And sometimes we build on feelings, we build on stuff that doesn't stand when the struggles do come. The addiction is something we're working through. And so we talked about the foundation. And then the key number one is we had to believe that it's possible. If we don't believe that it's possible, we're not going to invest in it. We're not going to step into it. And we want to tell you from the bottom of our heart, it is possible. Your breakthrough, your overcomingness, the stuff that's around you does not have to influence you. You can overcome it. But we have to believe that it's possible. We've been going through Luke chapter 5. There are so many examples throughout Luke chapter 5 that brought people into a position of an obstacle, something they couldn't push through, something they were waiting for their breakthrough, and how we walk through those things and those keys through Luke chapter 5, and how those aspects they got breakthrough and that kind of thing. So we talked about it. Believe it's possible.
Believe it's possible. That's foundational.
What's a key number 2?
Key number 2, we're setting up the frame. So we said you have to reframe your view.
That's right.
How you view things.
Absolutely, because how we see things have an influence of what we do or how we react to it. And so if we're not seeing correctly, we're going to keep going down on that spiral turn.
Your frame ain't going to hold up.
That's right. It's not going to withstand stuff. And so we have to re-look at how we see things. And when we do, we gain a different perspective. Again, because how we think influences how we live. And so if we don't reframe how we see things, our patterns aren't going to change. What we're doing in life is not going to change.
And one huge thing about that, honey, because it's been so prominent in us, is how we view ourselves in the situation and how we view the circumstance and how we view God. But that was a powerful one.
That was a powerful one.
Yes.
And if you haven't watched that one, we'd encourage you to go back right from the introduction and watch key 1 and key 2, because what's happening is we're building from one aspect to the other. I use the example, it's like coming in front of a locker with 5 locks, and each of those locks are significant in opening that door. And when that door's open, everything changes of our world. And so we have to believe it's possible. We need to change or reframe how we think.
Yes.
And when we're in the middle of it, sometimes we have to learn to stop and take a step back. Many times when my mind is going and my circumstances seem to be spinning, I just go even faster.
And that actually leads to key number 3.
Going faster?
No, stepping back.
Yes, stepping back does, absolutely.
Yes.
What I was saying was sometimes when we're in a whirlwind, we tend to speed things up, and it just starts locking things up.
Yeah.
And so stepping back, gaining another perspective is key number 2.
Absolutely.
Key number 3 is what?
It is prayer. It is plumbing and power.
Yes.
Connection to plumbing and power, which is through prayer.
Yeah. And the thing that we wanted to highlight to you too was the fact that prayer isn't what we generalize what prayer is, where we just fold our hands and give a little list to God and plead and beg and all that kind of stuff. Prayer is, and I love how you defined it, because prayer is our connection source. And that's a lifestyle. It's not an event. But when you recognize that he is our power source, and when we're connected to him, whatever he has is available to us.
And he is present.
He is present in the midst of our circumstances. He's not waiting for us to flyer, but he's in those midst of those circumstances. And we talked about plumbing, how plumbing was important, because many times in our life, things just plug up. And when they plug up, they jam up.
We just hold on to all our crap because we're so afraid we don't know what to do with it.
Exactly.
But that connection, he's actually dealt with it, and we can let all the crap
go.
Be real.
And the thing, and that's key to is being real, because we can put on faces, we can put on facades, we can make ourselves look really, really good on the outside.
Can we ever?
But we're plugged right up, and when we're plugged up, things don't work the way they're supposed to.
Out of order.
There's a connection problem, and so we can be honest with God, and as we're connected with him, he begins to speak life into us, and we realize that we're not on our own. When we're connected, we're not on our own. And so we talked about the third key, and this time we are getting into key number 4.
I love this key.
And key number 4 is significant as well, because if we don't apply these principles that we're learning, we're not going to see a breakthrough, because breakthrough just doesn't happen. It's a series of events that take place.
It is a journey.
That's right. And we've talked about how this is not a quick fix. How this is a journey of reframing, rethinking, believing, pushing through disbelief, thinking that nothing can happen to me, pushing through that and beginning to believe what God says about you and what God says about me, that yes, I will push through. I am an overcomer. I may not look like one from my perspective, but I am an overcomer. I am going to believe God's best for my life. And yes, this freedom is mine. It is mine to experience. It's mine to live out. It's mine to receive. And I'm going to stop believing the lie that it can't be.
That's right.
And we also talked about the aspect that it's easy to play the victim when we blame everybody else for our reason, for our bondage.
We blame,
if the circumstances were different, if the people around me were different,
it's because they did this to me.
I got this done to me, so I can't overcome. And that's a lie that we have to push through. And many times people are trapped in that lie, and they live in that excuse. And I've been there, and there's times I find myself, and we just keep ourselves spinning and spinning and blaming everyone else without taking for responsibility for what we are doing.
No freedom.
Right.
It is a hard place to live.
It is. And we're from experience. This is hard. When we're living like that. And so believing that it's possible and changing how we view it. I want to tell you folks that there's always another perspective to stuff. What we see when we're jammed and plugged, we think that's all there is. That's why it's important to take a step back and to recognize that there is more. It is more. When we step back and take a look, there is more. And when we see that there's another perspective that births hope.
So does.
And then we can move forward in that aspect. And so understanding that we're connected is number 3. You are connected to the power source.
Yes.
He is
amazing.
Present.
Yeah.
He's present with us. That. Sometimes we may not feel it.
Yes.
But it never negates the reality of it.
Yeah, and that's what we said, because even in our last passage, Jesus withdrew many times, it says. That's a very important point. Because there's crowds and there's people and there's voices and there's crap everywhere. Yes. And sometimes you have to step back so you can become aware of that connection. And that's why I love you made that point, because it's easily forgotten. We just think we keep plowing. Yeah. But Jesus often, it says, withdrew in Luke chapter 5 to a place where he could reconnect or just get all his bearings back in a row, because in the midst of crisis, we just move from crisis to crisis to crisis. And if we understand that we're connected, whatever he is ours. And so we want to move into key number 4. And this is personal, because we walked through some hard times and difficult situations, and we had to really understand how things were flowing in order for us to walk into that freedom. So what is key number 4? Key number 4 is, you put it one way, I put it another way, but you said ask for help. And I said you can't do it alone.
It's saying the same thing. For me, I think this is being personal. This is one of the hardest things to actually apply to our life. And when we were talking about this, I asked myself the question, why is it so hard to ask for help?
Yes.
And I think the reason why it's hard, but that's one of the keys. Key number 4 is knowing to ask for help, because we can't do it alone.
Yes.
Sometimes our whirlwinds, our stress, the stuff that we're going through is too big for us to handle, that we need to ask for help.
Yes.
And I think we're afraid to ask for help because, one, it exposes the fact we're in need. And sometimes we don't want people to know we're in need. And yet it can be obvious because of the struggle we're going through. Second of all, it really makes us vulnerable to other people. And sometimes we've been hurt. We've shared our struggle with someone, and it's backfired on us. And I want to say, I've had those things. I've had the insecurity. I've had those things backfire on me. I've had those situations. But I know enough now that I need other people in my life in order for me to have a new habit of breakthrough, of walking through my freedom that is mine.
And you know what? Even the story we talked about last time, because we want to bring that in.
Yes, we want to go back to Luke 5.
And we talked about that paralytic man that was brought to Jesus. And this is what hit me, honey, was 4 of his buddies brought him. Because he was paralyzed. He was not able to have his breakthrough isolated. He could not even get to where he needed to go.
He needed people.
He needed people around him.
To help him.
Yes. They knew him. They knew he was useless. He couldn't get up and walk by himself. They knew his crap, and they walked with him.
In fact, as we read into the 2 verses, we're going to focus on chapter 5 of Luke. We're in still Luke chapter 5. We're going to look at verses 18 and 19. And I never really recognized this as we gone through. But how important it is to have other people in our life. And to help us have perspective. Anyone can look good on the outside. We can make it really wonderful out on the outside, but inside, we're fighting, we're hurting, we're damaged, and yet when we refuse to allow others to come into our life, we keep ourselves in that bondage. And I did that for years, and since we moved here, I said, no way. I'm involving people in my life. Is it risky? Yeah, it's risky. But you want to involve the right kind of people in your life. And so
let's read that.
Luke chapter 5, and I'm just gonna read those 2 verses, 18 and 19. So some men came carrying the paralyzed man on a sleeping mat. They tried to take him inside to Jesus. Then verse 19 says, but they couldn't reach him because of the crowds. So did they stop Did they give up? Did they say, well, we've tried?
Yeah.
It tells us, it goes on. So they went up to the roof.
Yeah.
When you're desperate enough for breakthrough, when you're desperate enough to see a pattern in your life change, when you're desperate enough to be tired of the same old circle that's been spinning and spinning for years, you're going to go to great lengths to start dealing with stuff. And this is what happened. They couldn't reach him. They were looking for Jesus. They couldn't reach him because of the crowds. Then it says they went up to the roof and took off some tiles. Then they lowered the sick man on his mat down to the crowd right in front of Jesus.
And you know what? Sometimes you're too tired to push through for your own breakthrough.
I've been there.
And we have been there.
We've been there.
We've
Absolutely,
been there. And I want to
folks.
share a little bit of personal story after this, because this is real life. And this one really hits home, because as we were talking, it was bringing emotion up in me, because we've walked this one through. And we had to take this key to unlock some of the places that we were bound in.
Absolutely.
But they pushed through. His friends pushed through for him.
Yes.
He couldn't do it alone.
That's right.
It's so powerful. And this is what I thought, honey. Why are we so afraid to let people into that place?
That's a good question. Absolutely.
Why don't we just take that step to open up? Because we're afraid. We're ashamed. We don't want people to see our crap.
Yeah.
We think they're going to reject us.
Yes.
Maybe they're going to blab about us. And maybe our reputation's at stake.
Yep.
Maybe we're going to have to let go of our all-togetherness.
Absolutely.
And be real.
Absolutely.
And you know what? You know what? Real life, we lived that for years. We lived that for many years, where we hid. We didn't have anybody. We hid and we masked. We looked good on the outside, but inside, we were hurting.
Yes.
We had crap.
Yes.
We were a mess.
Yes.
We had struggles, but we didn't dare show anybody.
Because we were afraid of the repercussions of it. Religion will be the first to cut your head off. Religious people will be the first to cut your head off. People that are crusaders for the truth will be the first to condemn you. And so we felt pressure to always keep a front.
We couldn't talk to people. That's how we felt. And you know what? I loved the good-looking image. You just looked good. You looked like you had it all together. And so we've
talked about good Christian people. Good Christian people.
I looked like the nice Christian. But you know what? Inside, I really struggled.
Yes.
Because I couldn't share with anybody, because I had to keep that front up.
Yeah, that's right.
Until we began to take this key and let some people in.
Yes.
Not everybody.
That's important. You don't let everyone in, because, like I say, there's people that would use it against you.
Yes.
But when you're desperate enough, we were desperate enough to find freedom.
Yes.
We knew what God taught.
Yes.
And we struggled because it wasn't working, because I didn't believe it was possible. I struggled. It was not for me. For everyone else, not for me. But when I started believing it, it was for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Then something started to shift. Okay, it is for me.
Yes.
Well, then what am I missing?
Yeah.
What am I missing that I'm not walking in that abundance? If it tells me, if God tells me that the abundance is mine, then what else is in the way? And I started believing it. Then I began to recognize how I've been thinking over the years, all the thinking patterns that I've developed, and feelings and emotions that came with those perspectives. I recognize that the next thing is I have to change how I view stuff. And when I began to change how I view stuff, all of a sudden I was beginning to get a glimpse that my life was about to shift and about to change.
But there was times you said, I remember like just our journey, even in the last 8 years since we've been to Estevan, it's been a huge key for us, this key right here.
Absolutely.
Is letting people into and just being real.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness.
And when we came to the spot where we're like, we have to let people in, we got to open ourselves up and be real. And that was the beginning of a major breakthrough for us.
That was a beginning of a major breakthrough.
Yes.
Because the belief was there.
Yes. Yeah.
The perspective was changing and shifting.
Yeah.
And we knew that we had the right connection, and that was working. But we knew there was some stuff that religion just locked into our brains that I couldn't enjoy the freedom in Christ. And when I recognized that there was patterns in my life, there was thinking in my life, there was situations in my life that I could not break on my own. And one of the, let's be honest here, one of the most frustrating things was to hear the voice of not everyone, but the voice of the church as a whole. Just pray about that. You just give it to God. It's going to be free.
Yeah, just let it go.
And just let it go. You know, it's so easy. Just put faith to work.
Yeah.
And that made it even harder to share with people because that's all you would get.
Yes.
And I'm a realist in one sense. I like tangible things.
Yeah.
And so we knew that there was a missing element to that. And all of a sudden, it was through conversation with someone else, just saying a little bit of what I wanted to plow through, whatever. And someone encouraged me, why don't you find people in your life to help you walk that through?
Yes.
And man alive, when that became a reality.
That was freaking scary,
It was scary because I know. The reason why it's scary is because I know how it is to feel hurt.
Yes.
Because I've been hurt.
Yes.
But you know what? I've been hurt and I know how to hurt back. Often it's hurt people that know how to hurt.
Yes.
And I was recognizing I was hurting people because I was hurt.
Yes.
And so I began to bring key people into my life and to say, walk me through some of my trauma. Walk me through some of my thinking patterns. Help me see that God has his best in mind for me. And that was one of the most, let me tell you, one of the most liberating experiences because I found some cherished people.
Wow.
$1 million people.
Yes.
That I could be downright honest and share my crap, share what my struggle was.
Yes.
And they weren't intimidated by that.
Yeah.
They didn't see less of me.
There was no judgment.
There was no judgment.
There was just love.
But they walked me through some childhood things and issues that I had that were reframed, that was framed in my mind about myself, about my self-image and how I felt about myself. Because really, if you can't love yourself, you can't love others. And I was trying to love others, but I didn't love myself. And man, that came out. And it was people that came along that I allowed in. It's just like this paralytic man.
Yes.
He had to allow people to go into his world.
Yes.
He could have said no, and he would have stayed on his mat and stayed home.
Never
and
walked.
Could have grumped about his circumstances, could have whined about this is my life. But no, instead of him staying where he was, he invited others to come into his life. And as a result, there was 4 or 5 of them that were a part of his life, knew his situation, knew his garbage, wasn't embarrassed to be with him.
Wow.
Picked him up and carried him to Jesus. There was an obstacle, the crowd.
Yes.
I want to tell you, as you walk in your breakthrough, there's always going to be obstacles. And sometimes those obstacles are people. Sometimes those obstacles are someone else's perception of what needs to be done. There's going to be obstacles. And I just want you to relax knowing as you're building your life, there's going to be obstacles. But those obstacles become opportunities. And as we bring people into our life, they help us pick us up and walk us. And I think it's important to understand, and you made some good points about this, so you need to share some of those. Asking for help involves humility.
I was just going to say
We've
that.
got to get down off our pride and be able to say, hey, can you help me?
Yes.
Not that we depend on them, because then all of a sudden we expect the other people for our freedom. Our freedom is up to us. But what other people do alongside of us is help us in the journey.
Yes.
They don't do it for us.
No.
We have to do it. But them coming alongside and hitting the obstacle. They couldn't get to Jesus. They didn't stop and so many times in my life, I've just sulked and
you know what?
whined about my circumstances and see,
alone,
again, another obstacle.
And when we're alone, sometimes that's how we feel.
Yes.
We just stop and whine because we can't do it. We need somebody, and that takes humility. It takes vulnerability.
Yes.
And that is scary.
Absolutely
That's
is.
the challenge today.
Yes.
That is the challenge.
I have several go-to people that I can pick up the phone like that, and I can tell them what's going on, where I'm struggling, what I can't push through. I can immediately, any time of day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're going to talk me down off the ledge.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they've walked through with me some stuff.
Yes.
I've built trust, earned trust, and they will help me. They'll take me in my mat.
Yes. Yeah.
And they will carry me to Jesus.
Yeah.
And if the crowds are too big, wherever the obstacles are, they're going to make a way.
Yeah.
They're going to make a way.
And I know for me, because I have this written down because I was just writing before, and it was just bringing so many emotions up, because I just remember being so scared of people finding out my mess. And I was working my donkey off.
Yes. Donkey.
I was working my donkey off to try to cover it up.
Yeah.
And you know what? Now that I've allowed people, I can be real. I have an incredible tribe around me.
Yes.
Where I can just be myself and be real, crap and all. That frees you to walk into a place of freedom. Even if there's still mess, it gives you this power.
There's a sense of freedom when you're honest and real.
Yeah.
Because then you never have to cover something up.
Yeah.
You're never afraid of what people think. Hey, you know what?
That is so much
It is
work.
so free. And it's key to your breakthrough.
Yes.
Because you can never do it alone. A lone ranger will never reach the potential. Will never reach the potential that God has for them if they stay isolated and hidden.
Yeah.
Isolated and hidden is a way of staying trapped.
That's right.
Because people all have a story. People that have gone before us have plowed through things. They have valuable things to input in our life. And I would even so far as to say sometimes because of the mindsets we've created and the things that we've gone through and the experiences we've had, sometimes it's even okay to sit down with a professional counselor to help sort out how our brain works.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, that was another key in my life.
Yes, it was.
When I sat down and asked the professional to walk through how my brain works. And there's so many tools out there to help you with that process because people have been there. People have walked that road.
Yeah.
And when you understand that this guy let these people take him there, it took humility.
Yes, it did.
Could you take me there?
Yes.
Could you take me to Jesus?
Yes. Yeah.
Could you help me walk through some of this stuff?
Yeah.
Again, not in a dependency aspect, but as a perspective aspect. And sometimes they have something to help us walk through that. Then we have to make choices on our own.
Yes, we do.
We still have to plow through.
Yes,
they can't plow in front of us.
Because you know what? Even when that guy they brought him to Jesus and he had a breakthrough, he had to get up, take up his mat where he had lain on for so long. He had to take it up and go home. And now his responsibility was to walk in that freedom.
Walk in that freedom.
Yes.
He could have went back home and said, I'm so used to the bed, I'm just going to stay in bed and ask people to weigh it on. But that's how our minds work sometimes. And so I'd encourage you, if you're really struggling with stuff, patterns in your mind, there's some. Give us a text.
Yes.
We have some resources and we have people that are really significant in helping you through some of those areas because we don't know all the answers.
Yes.
Our network of people around us.
That's right. Yeah. And that's where we've grown so much.
Yes.
We need a network.
Absolutely.
You know, we are all connected in some way, but we need a network to begin to walk in our breakthrough.
Almost like this man needed a network.
Yes.
To get around.
Yeah.
And so we want to encourage you that don't be afraid to ask for help. The Bible's full of examples. You have not because you've asked not.
Yeah.
Sometimes the greatest roadblock to our breakthrough is asking for help.
Yeah.
asking for help.
Yep.
The Holy Spirit is there to help us.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
others around us with
Yeah.
their experience and what
Yeah.
they've gone through,
Yeah.
they're there to help us, to
Yes.
cheerlead us along as
Yeah.
well too. And so
Yeah.
never negate asking for help. Never be afraid.
And
even if it backfires you, skip those people
Yes.
and trust others.
And I say this with confidence that every person who has ever overcome breaking cycles in their
Yes.
life has never done it alone.
Never.
Never done it alone.
Never.
There
and
is no
if you look at any
Yeah.
significant event that's take place, technology that's been birthed, a new invention, they never did it alone.
We'd be so egotistical. This takes humility. To
Does.
walk in a freedom of overcoming takes humility.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is such a powerful key because it's been so powerful.
It's been so
for
powerful
us.
for us and so incredible
Yeah.
for us. And when we get into key five is going to bring all this together, because
Yes.
key 5 is what cements all this together. And we're excited about telling you about key number 5 too,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
when you understand the 5 keys, those tools,
Yep.
you will constantly always be walking in breakthrough, always.
Yeah.
It'll
Yeah.
be building and working, restructuring, putting the tools in place.
Yes.
But you're going to find you have the equipment you need
There you
to
go.
apply to your
Yes.
situation. Because this is not going to remove the situations.
No.
It's going to help you
Yeah.
rise above the situations.
Yes. It will
That's
change
why,
you.
That's why we say
Yes.
with confidence,
Yes. Yeah.
5 keys to overcoming whatever life throws at you.
Yes.
Remember, it's a process.
Yes.
There's expectations and there's homework.
Yes.
It
There's
won't happen all the way.
challenge.
There's
Challenge.
challenges.
Let-
And one of the things
Yes.
that we want to tell you about challenge is they always help us get bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
We can't succeed without challenges. And I want to tell you, as we close, your life
Yes.
is worth
Yes.
all the investment that you
Yes.
give as you work through this process
Yeah.
of building something that's going to last no matter what comes in place.
Yes.
John 10:10 says,
That's
my
awesome.
purpose is to come
Yeah.
that you might live life and live it
To
to
the full.
the full.
And that's our desire for you.
That's our desire for you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us for
Yes.
key number 4. We just want to
Yeah.
thank you. We even didn't even introduce ourselves.
We didn't.
And we didn't tell you we're coming live from 1920.
We forgot that.
We forgot all that.
Oh, well.
But that's great. If you've been with
Yes.
us along this journey,
Yes.
that is nothing new to you.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes. So glad
Look
you
us
joined
up online, Facebook,
Yeah. Subscribe.
YouTube. We love
Check
all that
it out.
stuff.
Share it.
You betcha.
And we'll
that's
see you
all.
Sunday.
We'll see you Sunday. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.